So very happy to introduce our speakers. You are 7, so we are 7, and you are 6. And I will ask you to introduce yourself in 3 minutes, starting by you maybe, and we will finish by Leah.
Is it working?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so nice to meet you all. Hello everyone. I am Basile Yorka. I come from the south of France, and I come from a design background in textile and fashion. Today I am here to represent Encore Garments, which I founded several months ago. But before that, I worked as a project manager, building up textile recycling supply chains for major fashion brands. There I've met my current partner, Valentin Laurent, my current associate, which is in the audience, in the audience. And we work together on very interesting projects, such as producing rigid panels with recycled textile in collaboration with the wooden industry. But there we also realized the limits of the recycling solutions when it comes to treat the massive amount of waste generated by the industry. And at that time, I was already practicing upcycling at my own scale, and I started wondering about how to scale up upcycling and how to industrialize this practice. So we joined our forces with Valentin, and we created Encore Garments. Encore Garments is a standard fashion brand, 100% made in France and out of waste, in fact. We buy post-consumer clothes to sorting center, and we work with French manufacturers in order to wash them, cut them, and sew them back together in nice and comfortable clothes. This year we managed to industrialize our first product, which is the t-shirt, which I wear, and we will launch it in September. So as you can see, maybe I can show it to you. So as you can see, its design is quite aesthetic, but it's also a direct consequence of its manufacturing process. And that's the very heart of what we know how to do. So design nice and comfortable clothes, optimize their production out of wastes, and make upcycling more accessible and desirable. Thank you.
Thank you. Laila.
Hi. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Laila Sargent. I am founder and CEO of The Seam. The Seam is the world's fastest growing repair service. We are based in London, UK, and have built the world's first ever truly scalable repair solution. We have done this with a two-sided marketplace. So on one side, we have a very vast network of what we call our makers. These are tailors, cobblers, dressmakers, seamstresses, embroidery artists. There are around 26,000 of them working remotely in the UK from home studios or small studios. And then the Seam is the kind of technology in the middle that connects them to customers, people who are looking for clothing repairs, shoe repairs, bag repairs, or alterations. And the main kind of value add to the industry is that items are repaired on a local basis so that we reduce any kind of carbon footprint. It also means that we are supporting local economies and building kind of local communities. And what's more is that our model has no limits. There are kind of huge fluctuations in clothing repairs, and with our model, we're simply able to scale supply in order to meet the demand. Customers find The Seam through one of two ways, either directly through social media or word of mouth. Our Instagram is incredibly popular. People love to see what is possible with clothing repairs, but also through our retail partnerships with the likes of COS from the H&M Group or Veja, the sneaker company, Net-a-Porter, and many more. As I'm sure many of us here today already know, the circular fashion industry is forecast to grow to be valued at around $560 billion by 2030. Now, a lot of the initiatives within circular fashion, repair and rental, resale and rental, for example, rely very heavily on repair. So the SEAM are on a mission to shape this global culture of repair and empower the rest of the circular fashion industry to really reach its potential.
Thank you. Please.
Well, you just want the introduction right now, right? Yeah, I'm Sudhir Sekri. I'm the chairman of Apparel Export Promotion Council in India. We represent about 6,800 apparel exporters in India. Our main objective is to interact with the government for policy advocacy and also facilitate our members to export their stuff. But that's about it, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. I'm Rachel Sheila Khan, and I'm a circular fashion specialist in the fashion industry. I work with a man called Ken Alston, who worked on the original Cradle to Cradle, and we created Real Circularity. We work in education, in educating professionals inside of the industry, whether consultants or inside of large companies and companies themselves. We consult, and I also have something called the Ecosystem Incubator that helps micro businesses collaborate together for the circular economy.
Thank you.
Hey, so my name is Bas Sloopman. I'm co-founder of the Fabric Connector. We have an online sourcing platform for circular fabrics with the goal of not having to produce any new fibers anymore. So I don't know if you know, but there's so many fabrics already out there. And yeah, producing new fabrics in our vision is not the way to go. So we promote the use of existing materials, recycled and dead stock, and make sure that brands and designers are able to find these fabrics and they can use it. And on the other hand, we try to inform them, make them aware of the problem, and make sure that designers, instead of producing everything new, also decide to design from what's already out there and see what they can make from it. Yeah.
Thank you. And Leah?
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Leah Therese Latile, and I create Zero Waste Couture. The research in resource-saving development processes is my absolute favorite. I love that. So I collect dead stock materials from the textile industry and turn this into unique high-end pieces. Mainly I focus on upcycling with laser technique, and I love to combine this very innovative technology with old traditional craftsmanship. Just recently, someone said, Leah, sustainability is a team effort. And I fell in love with this quote. So I think we can turn this textile industry into our superpower.
Thank you for this introduction. So we have very different profile to discuss about this topic, which is quite complex. And my first question for you is, finally, what is a fashion product that can easily be recycled, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I could take it. Maybe it's more your expertise, I don't know, but it's important to use more monomaterials, of course. Make sure that everything can be collected and sorted, and that the ways to do it is not too expensive. There's always an economic touch to it as well, right? So I know, I mean, for the fabrics, it's already possible to recycle, and there's a lot more possible than we already know, but it's not economically viable yet. So we need to find ways to produce it on a larger scale, to make it also accessible for brands to actually use it.
I would 100% agree with the monomaterial, for sure. There are some examples of companies that are already doing circularity, specifically in T-shirts, because they're a monomaterial. You can sew them with the same fiber. So if you look at the T-Mill, they're already doing that in a collaboration with with a company over in India, actually. And we also really need to think about the toxins that are inside of these products, right? Because if we're going to remake them into something else, we don't want to remake that toxin elsewhere. So we have some suppliers in our ecosystem who are working on toxin-free or even naked items, right? So if you look at Radis Cotton, they're doing a lot in that space, specifically in the t-shirt space. We also, in our incubator, have a collaboration called Sanja Stories, which is creating a jean which is 100% regenerative, rain-fed cotton without any toxins in. We're selling them what we call naked. And then working with our customer buyer group to show them how they can create a natural dye onto that as well. So, and there's massive nuances in natural dyes themselves, so don't assume that the natural dye is 100% sustainable either. I could talk all day. I'll hand on to anyone else.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Yeah, of course. Yes, recycling obviously is one of the biggest challenges that is being faced by the world today. But India, quite honestly, has been practicing recycling for centuries, because traditionally, Indians, the clothing passes down from generation to generation. So if that automatically, on a household level, we've been practicing that for centuries. But now, of course, the problem has become larger because of the growing exploitation and the growing consumption of apparel. And of course, towards that, and again, India has taken special measures for, I would say, pre and post apparel manufacturing. One of the initiatives that India has taken, first of all, because of this. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, India is one of the largest, I would say, mechanical recycling hubs in the world, with over 900 recycling units and about 4 million informal workers processing textile waste. Approximately 59% of that waste finds its way back into the textile industry through reuse. Like I just mentioned, sarees get converted into handbags or cushion covers or something like that. And the 25% of the recycled material goes into making of yarn. So capacity for recycling polyester from bottles and converting into textiles in India is expected to reach almost 1,600 kilotons per annum by 2030. So there are challenges, but I think the government of India, along with the industry, have taken several measures wherein we can, first of all, identify and then, find solutions to the problem.
Thank you. Yeah.
If I can go a bit. So in recycling, material unity is very important. But if we talk about upcycling, we also need textile unity. For example, you can sew together denim and jersey. So you need to sort very precisely in the materials, but also in the type of textiles and garments. So I think the key to facilitate recycling is sorting. And today, for example, in France, sorting is nearly 100% made by hand. So we have a limitation here in the capacity and the preciseness we can reach. But from what I know, in Germany, a company like Soex, for example, are developing infrared automatic lines to sort clothes. So maybe there is a hope here in new technologies. And maybe in a few years, this technology will be more accessible and less expensive. So more and more companies can buy them and be equipped with them. Thanks.
Certainly. Yes, Leah.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing up this infrared technique, because one main reason why sometimes it's still so impossible to do really good upcycling is that we don't know what it is. So we have a problem in wrong tagging textiles, like already clothing garment textiles, but we also have sometimes the situation that fabrics like dead stocks are in the companies for years and no one knows anymore what's inside of them. So what do you do with these things then? And then, yeah, for sure, we need new technology to like prove and find out what kind of materials we have to do new recycling and upcycling on a industrial level.
One of our exhibitors on Avantex has developed a scan for this specific problem, aware technology. You can have a look if you are interested. And my second question is, in recent years, governments have taken up the issue of textile industry waste, seeking to put an end to the destruction of unsold and discarded clothes at the end of their life or before. In France, the repair bonus has been the subject of a national advertising campaign. But at your level, have you noticed any change in habits with regards to these issues? Yes, Leila.
Thank you. So our kind of intel, our insights is driven by hard data. After working in the industry now, or at least building the seam as a repair solution now for the last 4.5, 5 years, we are able to see very precisely how behaviors are shifting. What we know is that 4 years ago, an item of clothing had to be worth £200, 230 euro, let's say, in order for the average consumer to deem it worthy of being repaired. Now, 4 years later, the value of an item is more like £70, so 90 euro, let's say. This shows that the more accessible we are making the services and the more education that is out there around what is possible means that consumers are looking very differently at their wardrobes. Rather than saying something like, okay, this thing is broken, I have to throw it away, now they are starting to consider, actually, instead, I could repair it. So the two main kind of drivers behind that are accessibility, making easy logistic options, making the service affordable, and also the education process. This is very much from a consumer perspective. Of course, there is a lot happening on the retail side and also the legislation and governmental side as well. But perhaps I pass that bit on to somebody else.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe I can take over from there. It's a good point. Because you're talking about post-consumer waste, but actually in every part of the cycle, about 30% gets left over. So that goes for the yarns, for the fabrics, for the produced clothes, and also for the clothes that are already in the store but are not sold. And I do know from practices that from fast fashion companies, some clothes, they with the hang tag on still, they go in the shredder. To sometimes be recycled, so which I guess it's always better than burning or landfilling. But I guess these practices it should be more like don't produce. Of course, the overproduction is the core of the problem. But if you produce, then always make sure not to burn or to landfill it on a bigger scale. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In India, again, I go back to the traditional thing. See, earlier what was happening is, these rag pickers, so to say, they would go to each household and pick up, worn clothing, which has been worn over generations and then get torn. So they were buying those and then reusing them for different items. But now, of course, we have this with the population. Yeah, with the population getting larger, this has become a little more difficult. So that is where, it has become now the government has got involved itself, and they have created what they call an e-marketplace. And there's a Textiles Committee of India, and then is the Ministry of Textiles, and then the industry. They've all gotten together and they've formed this e-marketplace. So now the other problem that earlier was that, garments would get mixed up. Cotton and wool and polyester, they would all get picked up, and there was no technology to segregate them. So, but now with the government getting involved, and of course with the technology we have today, garments will get collected in this e-marketplace by the government, and the government will have them segregated and then recycled. So even though this is started on a smaller scale, but I think over the years, very soon it'll expand all over India.
So your confidence. Thank you. Rachel, you wanted to add something on that question?
No, I think for that one we've covered it.
Okay, so my third question is, the DIY trend has not prevented the rise of hyper-fast fashion giants. You mentioned it. In this context, incentive-based solutions have emerged, such as yours, for instance. What do you consider to be the best of these, the most inspiring and the most likely to transform fashion on the long term? Here, for instance, we saw a lot of innovative startups, solutions, consultants, whatever, but
yeah, I think it's very important to show what's possible. And what I found out is the upcycling trend had kind of a bad image for, like, mainly in Germany, for example. It always looked a bit like this very eco design, and no one wanted really to have this for longer than one season. But the more people developed new techniques in upcycling, maybe connected these things with highly new technologies, I found out all of a sudden this was getting more trendy and fancy. And then the education part is also very important to show, to also explain and so on why and how, so that a lot of people can jump on, and maybe they don't do it because it's taking too long time, but whatever, but then they are getting a better feeling for it. And this is something which I think is very important.
Thank you. And
I just would like to make one mention here. Like I mentioned to you that India is already in the forefront of this whole recycling process. But I think that Europe and America is still a little far behind. But I'm very happy to say that, companies like the Inditex, which belongs to Zara and all, they have taken several initiatives where they're going to start second-hand garment stores, So that is going to that's going to help a lot. And they've also now started, like we are manufacturing, for instance, my company, or many others like mine, are manufacturing for Zara. So they have agreed to take back the clothing, or give back all the clothing, the unused clothing, so that, we could reprocess, refurbish them, and sell it to them again.
That's a very good news. So you mean that you are receiving the clothing back from those brands?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the clothing that does not get sold.
Okay.
Otherwise, that was going to the landfill, and they would, now they can give it back.
Okay, and is it starting like right now? Or?
No, it's going to take it. I mean, they have initiated this whole program. It may take about a year or so before they can really put it into motion.
Okay, very interesting. Yes, please.
I will speak in here so everyone else can hear as well. I mean, it's such great news. This is the ideal scenario of where we could be. My question would always come back to the efficiency or the scalability from a financial perspective, right? Let's say, for example, you are with Zara or shipping items to London, and then the items do not sell. To be able to package them, sort them, send them back to you, is there a big enough margin to then kind of, for it to make sense to repurpose them?
Yes, what we say in India is that sustainability does not have a cost. Because there's no expense that one can spare for sustainability, because it's going to save your generations in the future. So you have to think not of today, how much you are spending today, but how much you are saving for the generations in future. And that is the hallmark of this whole scheme that we're talking about. So we're not looking at what we are spending today, but what we are saving for our generation.
I feel like repair and reuse is a really important part of the circular economy, right? But it is a small part of it, right? And we need to think about how to switch the tap off from the linear in the first place and to design optimal products that can be put back into a system, not necessarily shipped halfway back around the world, but to work. If you've got the what we call the good and beneficial nutrients in that area, let's look at reusing that value in that area, right, as well. So I think what you're doing with the seam is really great. What Sojo is doing is really great. So there's loads of micro factories popping up in the UK, like Circular Ink and things like that. So let's look at reuse in a decentralized approach. I think India has a really, really great opportunity to become the first circular country, because you're procuring, you're making something, and you're able to put it back into a system, but you also have the customer base now, right? So let's look at decentralizing this. So for me, it's a really important part. But also switching off the tap from linearity and creating optimal product with the fabrication, with every single component, with the design, really thought about how you evolve that. And the repair and reuse side of the systems are being created so that that evolution can happen, but as a part of closing off the linear tap.
Yes, true. Yes.
Yeah, believe me, the first opening remarks that I made about India and we being doing recycling for generations, believe me, even today, 80% of our population lives in the villages. And the villages still follow that system. It's in the cities there where people have become more modern, and the younger generation who believe in fast fashion, they haven't. But 80% of India, which lives in the villages, even today, they pass on their clothing from one generation to the other.
And I have the garments that are sent back are the garments that you have produced, right? So you know already the material, you're familiar with those clothing. But what you said, Rachel, is the reason of my first question, because we had here a few years ago a solution named WeTurn, and the founder, she told me, our job is to connect the remaining stock of fabrics with the upcycling solutions, upcycling industrial. But we are only able to deal with natural fibers. So we see here that the original product is, and the choice that we make at the origin of the product is super important for the rest of the value chain.
100%.
So my fourth question is, within the EU, used clothing can be exported outside the EU, but most, 87%, is incinerated or landfilled. What do you see as the main obstacle to textile recycling in EU, but of course also elsewhere?
I'll have to let them answer it because it relates to them.
You can start if you want, please, Sudhi.
Sorry, no, I said I'll let them answer this one because the other ones is being addressed in Europe.
True. Yeah. Thank you. So as you said, 87% of our textile waste are destroyed, so pollutes, because they either incinerated or landfills. So I think the two main blocking points are sensibilization, that people, us, fashion consumers, don't know how to throw in the right bin the clothes, because in France we have, for example, a collecting system working with containers and shops that are collecting points, but today we only collect 35% of all the textile waste. And then the other point, I think, is the scale of today's solutions. I think there are not enough solutions, in fact. And even in the 35% that are collected, too many clothes are exported. In France, we export to West African countries. And in fact, they're around 40% of what we export. So it's about 100,000 tons each year. Ends up in landfill sites there because they find no buyer in West African countries. And so so at my own scale, but with Encore Garment, we try to buy what's considered grade B, so that's the grade between the second-hand and vintage economy in France and the grade that is destroyed or recycled. And this grade B, this specific grade B, is the quality that is today exported and that pollutes in West African countries. So I think solutions needs to be created to recycle that type of material.
Just to say that the previous panel conversation, which was about Africa, the new fashion capitals and business opportunity for the fashion industry there, of course the speakers have mentioned this issue of waste, and clothes at their end of life that are sent in Africa, and the matter is that it creates a local economy. Of course, it's more a disaster than a business opportunity, because we are not at the same time investing in the local circular economy to make it super interesting for the country. But we also have to think about the consequences when we, of course, send clothes in different countries. What would be your opinion about that question? Rachel, maybe, or?
Yeah, I mean, number one, in our book and in our work, we do not refer to the customer as the consumer. I can't eat my clothes. We are the user. We use our clothes. When we reframe the way that we actually look at what we're doing, it helps both the customer, both everyone out here. I mean, I think most people are either in the industry or creating a brand or maybe a manufacturer, etc. Right? We're reframing the way that we're looking at it. We're revaluing it in different ways, and I think value is a really important part as well, right? And what you were saying about your data that you found is really an important fact that people are starting to at least value stuff. Yeah, I really think we need to be thinking in these new terms to be able to create that new value over and over and economically make it viable to bring it back into system.
Yes, maybe Bas, you want to...
Yeah, so just adding to that, like there's, I think, two main problems. It's that products are not made for circularity, so no monomaterials, we already mentioned it. And as you mentioned, the collection. I also work as an ambassador for an African Ugandan charity that are trying to set up a recycling facility there. Because what they see is all the European clothes that are coming there, they are brought to West but also to Eastern Africa. And they are of such low quality that they cannot be used there. And they are landfill.
I have that as well. Like loads of upcyclers even come to me and say, we're not going to be repurposing a lot of this fast fashion because it's just, there's no value to it. Exactly. So that's why you have to design the value in at the first instance, right, to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if it just falls apart and it actually creates problems there. And I heard from the people there in Uganda that it's actually threatening their industry because the people there, they want, you know, lots of them want to wear Western clothing, and they are not buying the African, so that the whole industry there is falling apart. So I guess it's causing more problems than it's solving. Yeah.
And it's washing up on beaches, right, as well. And I talked to a scientist, and she said that the microbes on the beach, or the bacteria on the beach, are actually starting to evolve to eat plastic. That doesn't mean that they're going to actually mitigate all the waste. It'll probably take a very long time to do that. But the fact that nature is trying to have a solution to it naturally is really interesting.
Yeah, but sometimes the naturalism is not...
That's not a good thing either, right? Because it's going to create more toxins and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Yes, Leah, you wanted to...
Yeah, just one thing. I just wanted to add one thing. We need to find solutions how we can shrink the amount of overproduction. Because actually we are always talking about waste, which sounds like there is a resource and you can't use it anymore. But actually it's not waste, it's just an overproduction which is there for many different reasons, unfortunately. And on a development process level, we need to develop new ideas, a new system, how we can shrink this amount of overproduction.
Yeah, just to add to that, because it's a really good point. Like, we cannot recycle our way out of this mess, right? So, I mean, you mentioned it when we were talking before. Like, you have to close the tap. Yeah, you have to close the tap, and you have to work from both sides. So, yeah.
That needs new dynamic business models. We cannot do the same thing and expect different results. It's the definition of insanity. Right, so actually being more dynamic in business, more dynamic in the way that we create our structures, in the way that we think of our revenue streams is very, very important, because we cannot continue to create this overproduction, as you say. We need to design this into our very systems.
So my last question for you is how can we integrate suppliers and manufacturers, sometimes located far from their buyers, into this circular evolution? So there you may have an idea.
I think I answered this already. You know, I told you that we have these agencies now, the government, the textiles committee, and the industry working together and created this marketplace. So I think I answered that question already.
Yes.
I can probably kind of go on with it a little bit. We're looking at, instead of going top down and going, okay, I'm going to try and find out what's going on in this sprawling supply chain that's never ending, we're working with partnering with suppliers and ecosystems of suppliers to work from that in a bottom-up mentality. Let's get that small ecosystem working so that can serve some of the brands, and we can grow in these decentralized ecosystemic way. I think it's a really important part, not to try and validate always from the top down, but to think, how can we transform this so that it influences and creates more beneficial properties for more businesses. And we often also say, let's come out of the silos, like inside of a business, but also in the way that our businesses interact with other businesses, because this is all about collaboration, 100%, whether you're tiny or whether you're a low consultant or whether you're a large business. It is not done in silos.
So I would say that there is now more than perhaps ever before rising kind of want and need and opportunity to be able to close the loop in how we kind of work holistically to solve this problem. Now, us working in repair, I think, you know, it's particularly exciting for us as to how we use the data that we are collecting. So one way that I mentioned earlier, you know, being able to kind of follow trends and track insights on how consumers are responding to repair is one thing. Another area that we haven't actually touched on today is the post-purchase data that we now have access to that we never have done before. For example, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've been collecting data at scale around things like what fabrics are standing the test of time the longest, what fabrics are tearing the fastest, what zippers are breaking, what kind of buttons or fastenings are lasting. Even things like what styles are people tailoring the most, how many inches are they tailoring off the kind of hem of trousers. And what we're able to do with this data is then feed it back into the design teams so that really for the first time ever before, they are able to design with longevity in mind from the very beginning. Yeah, this is what I think the part, the repair really kind of brings that kind of circular loop together. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you. My opinion on this question joins what you said about closing the tap. So I think everything can come from both the designers and the buyers, because if we are able to sensibilize, educate the buyers to change their habits on the long term, and both if designers, so as you just said, have in mind longevity and no waste some kind of disposable clothes when they create the clothes, I think the suppliers will be forced to adapt themselves to like the new trends and to the new consumption habits.
I wish as a designer that I had that much power when I was back in the day. I was a designer for 2 decades in the industry. The initiative was not started by me. It would be started by the business. They would say, well, hey, we need to design it in this value way. We need to, this is your cost price. Go and get it, right? It wasn't an incentive. So it has to come from the business level as well, like the CEO or at least you inside of a business have to be able to go and start having those conversations. Hard conversations sometimes, right?
I can only imagine that must have been so difficult. Ethically you have and from a design perspective you have your goals, and then it's just so limiting. I think one of the main drivers behind, at least even just a small driver behind potential change here, is from consumers who are demanding better access to be able to care and repair for their things. For example, we have so many customers make a booking for, let's say, for example, a repair on a handbag, and we are able to source look-alike fastenings and fixings, for example. But they, as consumers, are now putting pressure on the brands that they are buying these items from, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 euro handbag. They are now demanding access to a replacement zipper, for example. There is also legislation that is kind of coming closer, it's looming in the background, things like the EU right to repair, which will change this, and it will encourage large kind of businesses. They know that they're going to have to make these spare parts, for example, accessible to the users, to the consumers. Yeah.
I was just. We have finished with the questions. We had a question from the IFA student about stocks reinsertion, but you already discussed about it. But would you like to add a conclusion, each of you, and then we will ask our audience if she wants to share questions with you.
Yeah, I would like to introduce this house to a gentleman here who represents a company called Pratibha Syntex in India, and they are into the apparel chain right from the crop to garmenting. And they have in the forefront of recycling and sustainability. And obviously, garments, even if it's a cotton, you cannot decompose a polyester, a man-made fabric. But when it comes to cottons, even cottons become difficult to decompose because you're using dyes, for instance, which are chemical dyes. So even if the cotton gets decomposed, the dye is left behind. Similarly, you're using polyester thread for stitching, and you're using, say, the label, the care label and the wash care label and the brand, they're all made in polyester. They don't get decomposed. So this gentleman here, his company has taken the initiative of using 100% cotton everywhere and right from the all across the chain. And I would like to give him an opportunity to explain to the house what they are doing.
Sure. Yes, please. Not too long, huh? We have questions after.
Yes. Hello. I am Karan from the company Pratibha Syntax. So I am one of the person, like it is an interesting story. I want to tell a bit about myself also. So I was a science student. I was a lecturer of physics. Then I got in love with fashion. So I got into Fashion Institute, and there I want to work on high fashion. So that was one of my thing, and I wanted to work with Chanel, with Versace, those kind of garments. But by default or by good thing, I got in touch with Pratibha Syntax. So I joined Pratibha in 2005, and that was the time when the organic movement was coming up. I still remember those small garments from the Europe, which was for the kids where we started. And our project, when we started with the farmers. We are a fiber to fashion company. So we are having started this project in 2002 with the 500 farmers. And it is the same time when organics exchange was started in Netherlands. And I remember that time the certification, there was SCAL certificates, and we were the one pioneer in the world who was having those certification. And people were not aware about, and they were thinking that organic, probably it is a myth and it will fail. And I remember first year it was not a good year for us. And but we still remained with those farmers, because the farmers was the one who was having hope with us, and we promised them we are going to make their soil better, we are going to make the things better. Right now, in 2024, I am proud to say that we are having 30,000 farmers with us, which is one of the biggest projects. And organic cotton is far away. And now we are talking about cradle to cradle. We are the first company in the world to do cradle to cradle with CNA right now. And we are working with G-Star, and there are different organizations. And we are also one of the first company to do regenerative organic project. So it is an Indian company who has been doing it. So when last time I was at London in Textile Exchange, I was shocked to see that people are not aware that how forward India is.
Yes.
India is far way ahead on innovation. We are right now talking about alternate cellulose. So we are working on linen, hemps, and recently with banana. And I was having a meeting with Chanel where they are really keen to work on regenerative organic cotton. They are interested to work on the banana. So we are finding out solutions which is there in for the future, or for the better future of the textile industry. And when we started this cradle to cradle, so I was having a conversation with the people, like we are in an apparel industry and we are here to sell. So when we talk about recycle, reuse, again, do not sell it. So it is something good. It sounds very good. But end of the day, the people who are there into the textile, they will be having lesser job, because lesser number of garments to sell, then there will be lesser number of job. We won't be having jobs. So why not make something which is not harmful for the environment? Maybe we have to pay 2 or 3 cents more, but it is better for us. We want to exist, we have to follow this. So that's why we chosen to be with the cradle to cradle. We are making the compostable, and very happy to say it is increasing. So we are going very forward, and this is like really, really interesting.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Yeah, so
Actually,
1 minute each for your conclusion. This was a very nice conclusion, anyway. And then
love it. I'd like to talk to that man about what his degumming process is on some things and whatnot. Anyway, I suppose my last thing is circularity is not recycling on steroids. It really has to be thought about in every single aspect, in every granular detail, in every business structure and sense, in finance. Absolutely what the man was saying there, that we need to think about the way that we do our economy, the way that we restructure, the way that fashion is. And that's what we're creating. It might be something that is what I call a cathedral thinking thing. So it might go past my lifetime for sure and past many of your lifetimes, but we still create that cathedral knowing that it will have its glorious days.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I would say that now today, recycling and sustainability is with us to stay. And like ma'am had said earlier, I answered her, there's no cost which could be greater than the preservation of our children's future.
Thank you. Leila?
I would say the education process is, for me, the most exciting part of all of this and the growth of the industry, but also probably one of the most important elements as well. I see this on a very kind of basic level. I see this happen even just with the Seam social media, for example. I would say 70% of the engagements that we get are from people saying, wow, I had no idea this thing could be repaired. And if we take that kind of sentiment and see it echo throughout or even kind of perpetuate and push it and share it across the industry, I believe we'll get together so much further, so much faster.
Thank you.
So as an upcycling designer, I love low-tech solutions. So even if like there is hope in the law, in the technologies, I think the most important about fashion is the bond we create with our garments. So my advice and my conclusion will be like love the garments, your garments, buy the products you love and you want to keep, to repair, to upcycle and be creative with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, Bas. And
yeah, so I think the circular economy should be based around collaboration and about building networks of businesses that collaborate and all take responsibility of the products that they produce. And there's not one solution. It's going to be a combination of a lot of different solutions. And I actually disagree with what you said about the labor market. I think circular economy is going to also present a lot of new opportunities for business and also jobs, but it will be different jobs. It will be more about repairing and upcycling, etc. So maybe a way to rethink that as well. Yeah.
Maybe you can continue the conversation after, because I think you are participating to the discussion with Cradle to Cradle at the end of the day. Leah, your conclusion?
Yes, I love this collaboration aspect, actually. I think this textile industry we have right now needs to get co-creative. It needs to open up the doors and let new ideas come into it. And this textile industry right now is made to deliver, all right? It always has to deliver on point. But we need time to do some researches on how we actually can proceed and how we can find new ways to stop this mess we have right now. So we need to get collaborative, we need to get co-creative, we need to open up and explore what we can actually do to save the good old craftsmanship we have, and also to find out new technologies and new ways, new innovative ways to get more resource-saving methods.
Thank you. So do we have questions for our speakers? Any question?
We've covered it all.
Yes, apparently it was super clear. Anyway, if you want to continue the discussion, feel free to join our speakers after the roundtable. Thank you so much to all of you, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.